Hello, this is Dave Peterson with TC Life Safety, and today on this Ask Dave video, I'm going to talk to you about fire extinguisher monitoring. Fire extinguisher monitoring and testing and inspecting is a code-mandated and often ignored item in buildings, especially buildings that have, or campuses, college campuses, hospitals, that have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fire extinguishers. According to NFPA 10, which is the code that guides us with fire extinguisher applications and locations and testing and inspecting. According to that book, it tells us it needs to have somebody go to every extinguisher in the building or in the campus or in the occupancy and inspect that for placement, for obstruction. Make sure that the gauge says that everything's, it's in the green, it's a good to go. Every 30 days. Now this doesn't include the, every 6 years of rechargeables needing to be recharged and pressure tested and all that stuff. This is just every 30 days, somebody has to go to a fire extinguisher and look at it. And if it happens to be in an area where the fire potential is greatest, or if there's a history of fires, I don't know, someplace where there's trash stored or paint stored or some kind of flammable stuff, and they have a lot of incidences where they have a lot of fires and the extinguishers are used, then those may be mandated to be inspected weekly. So, what do you get? You have to hire somebody or a crew of guys, or gals, to go out and check every single one of these fire extinguishers. And usually they have to have a manual list that they write down, the extinguisher number 1, 2, 3, 4, third floor, west wing, archives building. It is not obstructed. The gauge says it's green. The last time it was tested was in 2017. Move on to the next one. Or, according to the code, you can have extinguishers that are electronically monitored. Now, they're not just talking about monitoring that for being there. Some systems have a monitor where it's just, if you pull the extinguisher away, you get a loud buzzer, or you have, something that reports to a fire alarm or a security system. That doesn't tell you if it's obstructed. That doesn't tell you if the pressure in the unit is in the normal range. So, with that in mind, and with an increase in interest in this, especially the state of New Hampshire has written it into their building code. They've written it into their building code. And this is pretty interesting. It says the reasoning behind improving the state fire code is sound. The amendment will help increase fire life safety without being an economic burden to occupancy owners. In other words, they want every one of those things monitored, but they're allowing you to do it electronically. So all you need to do is respond to a fault at your fire alarm or your security system or whatever other listed system you have monitoring your fire extinguishers. TC Life Safety has partnered up with a company called Engage. Engage makes monitoring devices for fire extinguishers. They make this unit. It's called the EVM. All right, the EVM is an electronic unit that ties into a fire alarm or security system. It runs on 12 or 24 volts DC, just like a security or a fire alarm panel would supply. It has a tether, and on the end of that tether is a connector that actually connects to a specially made gauge on the extinguisher. So here's what it does. First of all, it's connected to the fire extinguisher. If somebody takes the fire extinguisher and runs away with it, it issues a signal to the control panel because this connector is meant to pop out when somebody takes the extinguisher away. They have this unit here that goes on the wall that actually captures that cable so that it'll, it's like a strain relief. It'll only pull so far, and then it'll disconnect from the extinguisher. So, extinguisher's missing, fire alarm goes into a fault. It's also electronic, whereas it monitors the gauge. So that if that pressure gauge goes either over pressure because a high temperature in the area has increased the pressure in there, or low pressure, which means that maybe it was used or it's leaked or something's bad's happened to it, it'll indicate it. You also see these two little black holes in here. That's for a sonic detector. What it does is it sends out a little sound wave and it receives it in the other hole. And if there's any obstruction in front of the fire extinguisher, it'll also tell you at the fire alarm control panel. It has two LEDs. It's got a green blinking LED that tells you everything's normal. It's got a red flashing LED that flashes to tell you when there's a fault. Actually, it has different flash rates based on what the problem is. It's disconnected, it's low, or it's obstructed. Okay. But this one unit, and it doesn't care if it's inside of the fire extinguisher inside of an enclosure, or if it's just hanging on the wall. You just run this cable up inside the wall, come out through this grommet that again secures it from being yanked out of the wire being yanked out of the wall. Connect this to your control panel. It's got a couple of sets of contacts in the back for alert and for trouble. Trouble would be a problem with the monitor itself, and alert would be a problem with the fire extinguisher. So you'd be able to get a couple of different signals out of this thing. It's pretty clever. What happens if you have fire extinguishers that don't have gauges? You got carbon dioxide fire extinguishers in your building because you have special hazards, that kind of stuff. Well, they make this tether. It's about the same length as the other one I just showed you. It plugs into the back of the EVM unit, but it has this here. This is like a lasso, and you would put it around the neck of the fire extinguisher, and it would create a loop, and then that would plug into the end of the tether. You have one of these grommets to hold the tether in place, so when somebody pulls that fire extinguisher out, it'll give you a trouble at the EVM and at the system. The EVM is there still with its little sonic doohickey to tell you if something's obstructing it. And since it doesn't have a gauge, it can't measure the gauge, it can't monitor the gauge, so that's the big difference between the two. You either have a fire extinguisher with a gauge or not. This is for the not. It's up and coming. Like I said, New Hampshire it's in there. It's in their code right now. On this document that shows the building code, it actually has a picture of the N-gauge unit right on it. So anybody that's going to be looking at the code, including inspectors, is going to be readily accepting the EVM unit and the N-gauge unit. Now, right now, TC Life Safety has EVMs on the shelf. It has the carbon dioxide lassos on the shelf. We have an arrangement with an Amerex fire extinguisher distributor that'll be modifying the gauges for use with these units. And if you have an existing system, if you have a system with EVMs on it and you're having problems, if you need to replace any units, because vandalism happens in schools and whatever, that we have the products on the shelf to be able to help you out. If you have any system requirements, give us a call. We're not into the systems business, but we'll certainly send you to a reputable dealer that has the Engage units and set you up. So please, take a look at the code, especially if you're in New Hampshire, it's law. And if you have any questions, if you want more information, then please give me a call at 800-837-8175. Be happy to help you out. You can look up on TC Life Safety's website, www.tclifesafety.com, and that will do a quick search for Engage or fire extinguishers, and you'll be able to come up with the Engage units, see the pricing and all the availability good stuff. And like our logo says, we over-deliver. We're always looking for new products that are going to be taking care of your needs, especially the needs of the facility managements for some of these big college campuses and hospitals. We're there for you. And please, have a life safety day.